and showed it to people trying to get television money for it, and somebody gave me the advice that nobody would make this film without being me. In other words, I was the only person that was going to bring artists and resistors together, so I had to be in the film to make it clear. And so I followed that advice. Then, when I sent it to Sundance, the voice that I heard back when it didn't get in was, we didn't like the personal essay. We didn't like the first person in the film. And we didn't like the female voice as the first person. A woman curator told me that. That's what some of the men thought. Yeah.
So what about the form of the film?
Oh, John. My dear John. Thank God he's not in my class. The form of the film is the form of resistance. My class knows that form and content are the same thing. If I made this film like a Hollywood film with a suture, that means a very clean edit, scene transitions, the story's developing without all this intercutting, without you working to find out where we are, you are not going to go on the path of what resistance is. Resistance builds slowly as this film builds. You don't get really involved in the film until you start hearing about Marguerite and her story, and by them, Benjamin too. And the two of them together then are the dramatic protagonists. And then you're there, and you're feeling their pain and their torture, and that they finally, you yourself might make that step towards becoming a resistor. And that's what I'm asking of my audience. When were you going to step out of your chairs, out of your studies, and even if it's just giving money, why didn't Matisse reach into his pocket? 100 Jewish children were rounded up in Nice and were deported. Had he been doing his own shopping in the market, maybe he would have heard gossip about this. Well, I don't imagine he left his studio, his house. He's privileged. So it's up to us to be aware. And what point? How many Iraqis have to be killed? 21 today. How many human lives before we go to the street? I couldn't believe when we heard about Afghanistan that we didn't go to the streets. Where's our Orange Revolution? So I'm asking that of myself. I'm looking for a leader, somebody who will lead us in this direction, who will be a spokesperson, who will gather our energies and make our voices heard again. So this is a period of that building. When is it going to be to that?
The question is a bit personal for you, or actually I was wondering if it was personal. That the remark that you used about the religion on the angel of history not being able to shut his wings is something that you wrote about the drawing that you own back for free. I think it ends something like, it ends saying, the angel of history is the angel who does not give but take. And, the ending of this quote seems to fit your movie so perfectly that I couldn't help wonder whether you didn't use it because it would be so...
It is.
Suitable.
It's suitable, and you don't have to say the whole quote.
Yeah.
For people like you who've read about it to follow it through, or for people who don't know about it to be caught with that metaphor of the angel of history. And in film, there's only so much reading you want the audience to do because you want to move the story visually. So I couldn't put the entire...
It could also somehow bridge the two poles.
I beg your pardon?
It could also somehow bridge these two positions.
The artist and, well, in a way.
In a way that, poses everything in so much more wider perspective.
Well, Benjamin, of course.
I was wondering, because you also use this to media, like painting and photography, in a very strong opposition. In the way you build up the film.
But Benjamin, too, is an artist. So he also is a Matisse and a Bonnard, but with a completely different story behind him. He doesn't have the opportunity to continue in the library doing his research and writing. So he is a bridge in that way. I don't think I've got the answer that's going to really thrill you. So if somebody else wants to come in on that.
In regards to the letter where Matisse is talking about painting or drawing in black and white versus painting in color and how he feels he can't color, taking that scene and then the scene where you're facing the camera and there's the color that colors the screen and then you kind of wipe it away with your hand to show that we need to see this visual. Do you think that that's kind of the double-edged sword of art at a time of war and resistance that, you know, Matisse is trying to really separate himself from that probably because of the Depression or his inability to, you know, join the resistance. But I was wondering that if that opaqueness can be problematic because we're not seeing the reality of what's going on, and when you move the paint away from the screen versus, you know, still the need to have art and have color to express our vividness and joy in life.
You know, just one little correction. Matisse had the ability to join the resistance. He had regained his health. He had the operation around 1940, and stomach cancer, the grandson says. It's called other things in different books. And he says, I have a second life. And he's not in a wheelchair when he does the cutouts later in life. He is active and getting about. So he made that choice not to pay attention to the occupation. As far as we know, you know, one doesn't know if some letters were burnt or not. You're reading these metaphors. You know, when I was painting there with the cherry blossoms and all, and the residency behind me, this was before Kosovo broke out. This was before my film became political. I went to do this residency to say, okay, lesbian feminism is over there, and I am a free artist. I'm a poet. I can do whatever I want every day. I can experiment. I can go up on the rooftop and paint on a piece of glass while the landscape is behind me. You know, I can mix oil and water together and put them in front of my optical printer and make another kind of a painting. You know, the old light show stuff that we used to do. You know, I can bring superimpositions together. I can do anything. Then really that very first setup of the film, the war in Kosovo broke out. I go to the director, please let me go to the border. I've seen women and children fleeing from their homes, the men are in the hills fighting, but these people don't have anything. Let me just be there with them as a presence, a human presence. No, you signed a contract. You have to stay for the 6 months that you said you'd be here.